Welcome to what is basically the last week of the class. You guys have done really well, so let's finish it up. Your multimodal project or essay will be due on December 5th. That's the last day of classes, the day before Dead Day, so December 5th. If you're doing extending your website, your blog, and getting that loaded and doing some extra work on it, then you can send me the link. If you're actually doing an essay, then email me the essay at ghjensen@ualr.edu. So this week we're going to be reading A River Runs Through It. Lee Gutkin defines creative nonfiction as nonfiction you want to read slow. If we would accept that this is nonfiction, that's something maybe we ought to talk about a little bit during the course and during this week. This is certainly nonfiction that you would want to read slow. So I would encourage you to read at least some passages out loud to yourself or maybe to a friend or family member. Let them hear the language. Let yourself hear the language. There's definitely a rhythm to his sentences that is poetic, lyrical, and it's pretty much throughout the entire work, although certainly parts of it stand out, like the opening passage and the last few paragraphs. Now, I raised the question about whether or not this is nonfiction. McLean himself calls it fiction. And certainly some of the details have been condensed or changed a little. Most significantly is how his brother died. The implication, at least, is that his brother died in Montana. His brother actually went to live near McLean and worked at University of Chicago toward the end of his life and died in Chicago. So certainly there were some facts changed like that. Now, how many facts can you change before a true story becomes fiction? That's what I'd like to discuss. And I will tell you that toward the end of the book, there's a little exchange between Norman and his father about true stories that you'll find interesting. And we ought to have some discussion about that on the discussion board. I just think the whole dichotomy between fiction and nonfiction can get a little blurry, to say the least. There are nonfiction people who are doing what seem to me to be basically nonfiction, who will call it fiction so that they won't be charged with distorting the facts because they're adding in, using their imagination to bridge some gaps and supply some structure to the narrative that comes from their imagination. I can certainly understand that. There are other nonfiction writers who maybe cross over into fiction and still call their work nonfiction. Michael Herr's Dispatches is an example of this. He created a composite character, a general, which he claimed was okay within the realm of creative nonfiction, because he was pulling together several people into that composite character, and one of his rationales was the character could have existed. So in that sense, it was a real character. There's not a simple, easy answer about this, and I would say also that one of the things we ought to bring into that discussion is marketing. In part, whether a book is fiction or nonfiction goes back to bookstores, and the bookstores have to stick it someplace. So if it's going to go into the fiction section or the nonfiction section, or maybe it could be not creative nonfiction go into sports section, or it could be going into the backpacking section, or different places in the bookstore. So I do think marketing is at least part of what is going on with the labels that we stick onto various kinds of writing. So let's have a discussion about this all this week, both Norm M. Maclean style and the issue of fiction and nonfiction, and where is the boundary, and in what ways is it okay to do a little, bring a little imagination into nonfiction, and when is that not okay? I personally am okay with having a lot of leeway as long as you let the reader know what you're doing. So as long as you're not distorting your intentions, or if you're not making the reader think that something that you have imagined was indeed what you have factual information to know did happen. So let's discuss all this week, and I'll see you online. Have a good week.